We had 23 minutes per game, so he was definitely a contributor. And Florida, I think Billy Donovan he's a really good coach. Could they make another Elite Eight? I definitely think so. The schedule is really tough. The recruiting class was good, but not great. They got 3 ESPN 100 guys. Devin Robinson, Brandon Francis, and Chris Chiosa. I'll be honest. Excuse me. I don't know much about any of these guys. I didn't really pay attention to Florida's recruiting class very much. These are not really like elite guys by any standard. But I'll have to, read more about them to see where they come from. But I think Eli Carter is eligible. Eli Carter is eligible this year. So that will be exciting. John Horford comes from Michigan, younger brother of Al, and he is going to make an impact. But obviously the big guy is Michael Frazier II and Dorian Finney-Smith, or Dorian, however you say that. Michael Frazier II is possibly the best three-point shooter in the country, and Dorian Finney-Smith is an all-everything type of player. He's like a forward and a guard. He's like a guard and a forward's body. He really knows how to play, definitely, and he's very skilled, and I think that'll lead him far. So, looking at the schedule, Miami at home, then Georgetown in Battle for Atlantis, and obviously teams like Wisconsin, and then obviously the big game against Kansas in the Big 12 SEC, Wake Forest, and at Florida State, and then last year trying to avenge the buzzer beater in which UConn beat them, Shabazz Napier at the buzzer off of a rebound. They'll be trying to get that back in Gainesville on January 3rd, so right after New Year. Right before the College Football National Championship, which there will be no Florida this year, we'll be seeing a big game between Florida and Connecticut. And then the non-conference slate, they get Georgia on the road, they get LSU on the road, they avoid Arkansas on the road, but they've got the home and home against Kentucky. So this is going to be a tough slate for Florida to manage, definitely. Really going to be tough, but I think if there's any team that can do it, it's definitely this team. I don't think this team is as talented as last year's team was, but definitely they have a chance to go far. Chris Walker, though, he is really going to be the key to this team. Where his development's going to go, that's really going to be the key to this team, honestly. I think Chris Walker really needs to, become more of a, I don't know, maybe he didn't get the playing time that was necessary of him to really become a good player, but I think with some time, he can become a really, really talented player. But I think he's going to be the key for this Florida team. He's really talented. He's got a good support behind him and a really good job with the coaching he's got. So he's going to need to, harness his talent and see where it goes. So going back over to the ACC, we've got the newest newcomer to the ACC, replacing Maryland, are the Louisville Cardinals. And Rick Pitino, obviously, 2 years removed from a national championship, he loses his best player from last season in Russ Smith. But Montrezl Harrell's back. That's definitely going to be interesting. But remember, Luke Hancock is also gone. So Chris Jones is back. And then the guy I've been hearing a lot of, well, this guy's going to break out for sure, is Terry Rozier. I think that's how you say it. Rozier. Someone let me know. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, but Terry Rozier, I'm going to go by with Rozier. Terry Rozier has a chance to break out this year. I haven't seen a lot of him, but 7 points per game last year on 40% shooting. Not terrible. I don't know too much about him, but, it seems like he could be someone that could break out. Wayne Blackshear is somebody I've always liked since 2 years ago when he was a sophomore playing on that national championship team. So this will be a good year, I think, to evaluate Louisville. They've got a lot of talent, definitely, even with Smith gone. Montrezl Harrell has a chance to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft if he decides to leave after this season. And, good recruiting class, not elite, 4 top 100 prospects, including a couple of guys I've seen a lot of. Shaquan Aaron is another kind of that guard in a forward's body type player. 6'7" guy, doesn't really look the type. Quentin Snyder is a point guard who was originally committed to, I think, Illinois, and then dropped out of his commitment to sign with the Cardinals. He's from Louisville, so he's a local guy. Probably knows the team well. Chinanu Onuaku is a Maryland native who I don't know much about. And then a really talented 7'1", raw but talented 7'1" center, Anas Osama Mahmoud. And they also brought in two other players that were 4- and 3-star prospects, respectively. But this team is going to run and die, I think, off of their forward play with Blackshear, Montrezl Harrell, and guys like Mangkok Mathiang. So it'll be interesting to see where this team goes. Can Terry Rozier break out? Will Chris Jones continue his good play after coming over as a junior college transfer next year? The schedule. The first couple of games are all part of they've got the Armed Forces Classic against Minnesota, Patino versus Patino. So that'll be a fun game. And then they've got 4 cupcakes, Jacksonville State, Marshall, Savannah State, and Cleveland State. A bunch of states in Marshall in the Global Sports Showcase. I'm not really sure what that is. And then it's Ohio State at the Yum Center, ACC Big Ten. Then Indiana at MSG. That'll be a tough game. Western Kentucky is their only true road game. The only true road game is Western Kentucky, so that should be a win. And then the rivalry game against UK, Kentucky Wildcats at home. Who wins that game? You know what? I need to see the whole non-conference slate for both of these teams before I can make a true prediction. But if I'm picking today who wins that game, I'm picking Kentucky, even in Louisville. I think Kentucky is just the better team. I think they have more talent, and I think ultimately the experience that you're giving these guys after almost 2 months of playing now should be enough for the Wildcats to pull off the win against their big rival. Not moving back. We're still in the ACC. It's going to be Virginia. Now, Virginia, let me think about something. Last year, it's October 2013. You're talking with a friend, and you're saying, who's going to sweep, there's going to be a team that's going to sweep the ACC regular season and conference tournament in the 2013-14 season. And you might say, it's going to be Duke, or it's going to be North Carolina, or, it's going to be one of those two teams. I really, really highly doubt anyone ever said it's going to be Virginia. Number 1 seed, Sweet 16, 30 wins, conference tournament title, 16-2 in conference play, and they lost 2 big players. Obviously, Joe Harris and Akil Mitchell are big losses. Joe Harris is scoring guard, Akil Mitchell a more rebounding forward. But these guys are big losses, but I'm not worried. Malcolm Brogdon is back, Anthony Gill is back, Justin Anderson, and then the guy who's suspended for the opener, but I think can make an impact, is London Perantes. He definitely has a chance to break out more this season. I mean, he played a lot of minutes last year and wasn't entirely good, but I think another year of experience. Played a lot as a freshman last year, so he can definitely break out this year for this Virginia team. Looking at the schedule, they've got a true road game to open the season at James Madison, but that shouldn't be tough. And then the Barclays Center Classic happens. LaSalle, Rutgers, Vanderbilt, and Norfolk State are on the schedule, so that shouldn't be too hard. I wouldn't count out George Washington in a home game, but I still think Virginia should win that game. And then they've got 2 road games that are no pushovers. They visit former ACC foe Maryland in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, and then they've got VCU, Virginia Commonwealth, who I'll get to in a little bit, who I think are one of the most talented teams in the nation. VCU coming on strong in the December 6th matchup. And then Harvard at home. So that's going to be a tough game, too. If I could see them losing one of those games at VCU or versus Harvard at John Paul Jones Arena, I might say they might lose to Harvard at home more than they lose to VCU on the road. So it's going to be tough non-conference slate for Virginia, but if anyone can do it, it's Tony Bennett, and this team is going to be good for sure. Malcolm Brogdon's going to have more points. Anthony Gill is going to have more points. Justin Anderson, London Perantes. Recruiting class, nothing special. A couple 3-star guys. But they're getting better in terms of the recruiting trail. They picked up one of this really talented guy for the 26. I'm looking. They picked up Kyle Guy for the 2016 class, who's a really talented point guard prospect. So Tony Bennett, never an elite recruiter. He's getting there. This team is talented. They don't need elite recruits to be really successful. So wouldn't be surprised to see this team go really far. Definitely a team that, is going to make a difference this year in terms of what they can do. So now moving back to on our way to back to the Big 12, we get to Texas. Now, if I'm the one picking these rankings, I don't have Texas ahead of teams like Gonzaga, Iowa State, VCU, but people obviously think Texas are pretty good. I don't disagree with. They don't lose anyone of note. Actually, they lose one. They don't lose anyone ever. They actually don't lose anyone from last year's team. But then you had the highest score at 12.8. Jonathan Holmes, Isaiah Taylor, Javon Felix, and Cameron Ridley are all really talented guys. But Felix shot 36%, Taylor shot 39%, and Ridley is a post player, so he wasn't elite in terms of anything. A year ago, Rick, I'm going back to this. We were talking to a friend in October 2013, and he says, who's the coach that gets fired at the end of the season that plays in a big power conference? And I'm sure many of us would have said, it's Rick Barnes. And now the question is, which Big 12, which coach is going to take his team? How far is Rick Barnes going to go in the tournament? So that'll be interesting to see. I think this team is talented. The guy that I really love to see is Miles Turner. We share the same name. He spells it differently than I do, but really, really skilled big man at 7 foot 240. Could go high in the NBA draft, but I could see him staying for a second season with the Longhorns in Austin. Really talented big. Chance to be an impact player, but he's going to have to compete with guys like Cameron Ridley for time. Certainly, Jonathan Holmes too. So this is going to be a tough year. I think not a tough year, a tough road. As I said, the Big 12 schedule is tough. They've got the 2K Sports Classic, Iowa, Syracuse or Cal, visiting UConn, visiting Kentucky, home game against Stanford. This is going to be a tough road for this Texas team, but I think they'll finish in the top 5 of the Big 12 easily. Could compete for the second spot. As I said, I think Kansas State takes that spot. Definitely could compete for the second spot. But this is a talented team. So we got through the top 10, and this has gone on for quite a while now, and I want to get this done in under 55 minutes probably is how I'm going to aim to get this done in under an hour each time. So I'm going to quickly run down the next 15 teams that were ranked. Wichita State, ranked at number 11, made it all the way up to the top of the polls last year. Or maybe they didn't make it up to number 1. I can't really remember. Maybe they did during their conference tournament. Last year with the undefeated season, Ron Baker, obviously, Fred VanVleet. That's going to be a really good team. Villanova at 12. I really like Villanova at 12. I think this team is the odds-on favorite to win the Big East. Devontae Smith-Rivera. No, he plays for Georgetown, sorry. Javon Pinkston is the guy I'm thinking of. Javon Pinkston, Darren Hilliard, Ryan Arcidiacono make a really talented core for the Wildcats. At 13 is Gonzaga. Kevin Pangos, obviously. Pangos is what I like to call him because he bangs shots in. So he's a really talented guy. And then obviously the 2 big transfers, Wilcher and Kyle Wilcher from Kentucky and Byron Wesley from Southern Cal. So that will be a big impact for them. 14 is Iowa State. Georges Niang is really ready to lead this team with the departure of DeAndre Kane. Iowa State, I would pick to finish 3rd in the Big 12, ahead of Texas, but behind Kansas State. So that will be a really tough game. It's a tough schedule for Iowa State in terms of the conference slate. 15 is VCU. Shaka Smart turned down Marquette, and I'm sure he turned down other big names. He wants to be a VCU for a long time, and I don't blame him. Trevion Graham, is really big player in this team. They lose Javonte Reddick, but VCU is really talented.